rewriting your story, breaking free from the labels that define you. Have you ever felt trapped by someone else's definition of who you are? That moment when you realize the life you're living is more about meeting expectations than expressing your truth. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing A. Davis, a visionary who has fundamentally transformed how we think about personal reinvention. Her work has helped thousands of women, particularly Black women, break free from the confines of societal labels and reclaim their authentic power. What makes A. Davis truly remarkable isn't just her brilliant mind, but her revolutionary approach to creating spaces where women can shed the weight of others' expectations and step boldly into their own light. She's not just changing individual lives, she's sparking a movement that's reshaping entire communities. The story she shared left me wondering how many of us are living someone else's version of our lives. Think about it. We walk around wearing invisible labels: ex wife, former employee, pastor's wife, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who failed, the one who never quite measured up. And these labels, they stick. They cling to our skin like stubborn perfume, the kind that lingers long after you've tried to wash it away. We become so accustomed to their presence that we forget they weren't always there. We forget they aren't actually part of our DNA. But what if I told you that the most powerful act of rebellion is to peel off those labels and write your own? What if your past, no matter how complex, how painful, how public, doesn't have to define your future? This isn't just positive thinking. This isn't another live, laugh, love moment. This is about reclaiming your power. When I spoke with A. Davis, she emphasized something profound that I can't stop thinking about. The moment you decide that other people's opinions about your life choices are none of your business is the moment you truly begin to live. Let that sink in for a moment. Other people's opinions about your life choices are none of your business. We spend so much time worrying about judgment, especially when we're making changes that challenge how others see us. The ex pastor's wife who decides to start a business, the corporate executive who walks away from a six-figure salary to pursue her passion, the woman who chooses herself after decades of choosing everyone else. These transitions come with a tsunami of opinions, don't they? The raised eyebrows, the whispers, the direct confrontations disguised as concern. Are you sure this is wise? What will people think after everything the church did for you? You're throwing away everything you've worked for. But here's what A. Davis helped me understand: those voices aren't the soundtrack of your life unless you hand them the microphone. In our conversation, we explored three powerful truths that can transform how you navigate your journey forward, especially when that journey involves breaking free from labels that no longer serve you. First, your past does not define your future. This might sound like something you'd find cross stitched on a pillow in a home goods store, but the science behind it is real. Our brains are remarkably plastic, capable of forming new neural pathways at any age. What this means is that the story you've been living isn't hardwired. You can literally rewire your thinking, your responses, your entire life narrative. I was particularly moved by what A. Davis shared about several Black women entrepreneurs featured on the Soft Girl Era podcast. These women had overcome intense societal expectations tied to their roles as wives or community leaders. The judgment came from all directions: family members who didn't understand why they couldn't just be content, community members who felt betrayed, and their own internal voices questioning if they were making a terrible mistake. But instead of letting that criticism crush them, they transformed it into fuel. They built networks with other Black women entrepreneurs who understood their journey. They invested in personal development. They leaned into mentorship. And the results? Their ventures didn't just survive, they thrived. They created what A. Davis calls a multiplier effect, generating jobs, inspiring others, and shifting perceptions about what's possible for Black women after major life transitions. One woman who had been a pastor's wife for 20 years launched a financial literacy program that has now helped hundreds of women in her community achieve economic independence. Another built a wellness brand that celebrates the beauty and strength of Black women's bodies, something she had been taught to downplay in her previous role. These women didn't erase their past, they built upon it. They took the skills they'd developed, the wisdom they'd earned, and redirected them toward dreams that were authentically their own. Which brings me to the second truth: the power of community and sisterhood is transformative. We are not meant to evolve in isolation, especially for Black women navigating transitions that challenge cultural and societal norms. Having a circle of support can mean the difference between retreating back into familiar constraints and pushing forward into new territory. A. Davis shared insights from another powerful example from the Soft Girl Era podcast, where high achieving Black women discussed how they traded burnout culture for fulfillment. Many of these women had been raised with the belief that constant sacrifice was the only path to respect and success, particularly those from church leadership families. The pressure to maintain perfect images while suppressing their own needs had left them exhausted and disconnected from their joy. But through connecting with other women on similar journeys, they discovered new possibilities. They began adopting what they called soft habits, intentional self care routines, boundary setting practices, and permission to prioritize pleasure alongside productivity. They sought therapy and coaching specifically tailored for Black professional women. And perhaps most importantly, they created spaces where they could be vulnerable about their struggles without fear of judgment. One woman described how, after leaving her role as a pastor's wife, she felt like she'd lost her entire identity. I didn't know who I was outside of serving others, she admitted. But in her new sister circle, she found the courage to explore parts of herself she'd never allowed expression. She discovered a passion for visual art, something she had been drawn to as a child but had abandoned because it wasn't considered useful in her previous life. Today, her artwork hangs in galleries and she leads workshops helping other women unlock their creativity. I'm still serving, she says, but now it's from a place of authenticity rather than obligation. This brings us to the third truth: criticism can become your greatest motivation. When you decide to rewrite your story, not everyone will applaud. Some people will be uncomfortable with your evolution because it challenges the boxes they've put you in. Others will project their own fears onto your journey. And yes, some will actively try to pull you back into familiar patterns because your growth highlights their stagnation. A. Davis shared a particularly moving example about podcasts like Let's Talk Sis that create brave spaces where former church leaders' spouses discuss reclaiming their identity after stepping away from high profile spiritual marriages. These women faced intense isolation, due to the stigma attached to leaving visible religious roles. Many battled imposter syndrome when building new careers outside church settings, but through open dialogue via podcasts and online communities, they broke the silence around these experiences. They shared practical strategies, from networking tips to mental health resources, and something remarkable happened. Their collective storytelling normalized the transition struggles and highlighted diverse paths beyond their previous titles. Many of these women had spent years hiding parts of themselves out of loyalty or fear, but once they found solidarity with others, transformation became possible. Their story sparked viral social media discussions, empowering more women worldwide who found themselves in similar situations. One former pastor's wife shared how the criticism she faced after her divorce became the very thing that pushed her to launch a platform supporting women in transition. Every time someone said I was throwing my life away, she explained, I committed more deeply to building something that would help other women find their way forward. Today, her platform reaches thousands, shifting dominant narratives around what fulfillment looks like post church leadership marriage and encouraging radical self love and reinvention at any stage. This is the alchemy of transformation, turning the very things meant to diminish you into the elements that distinguish you. So, where do you go from here? How do you begin to rewrite your own story? I challenge you today to stop waiting for permission to live authentically. Stop believing that your value is tied to the labels others have placed on you. Stop postponing your joy, your dreams, your evolution because someone else might be uncomfortable with who you're becoming. Identify one area where you've let someone else's opinion hold you back. Write down one step you'll take this week, even if it feels small, to reclaim your narrative and move boldly toward what sets your soul on fire. Then share this commitment with a trusted friend or sister circle so you stay accountable. Remember this: every woman who has ever transformed her life began exactly where you are right now, with a decision to believe that she was worthy of more, a decision to trust that her voice mattered, a decision to write the next chapter herself. Your story isn't finished. In fact, the most powerful chapters may be the ones you haven't written yet. The pen is in your hand, the page is before you. And as Ace Davis so powerfully reminded me, when a woman decides to rewrite her story on her own terms, it's not just her life that changes, it's everyone who witnesses her courage, everyone who benefits from her gifts, and everyone who follows the path she dares to forge. So write boldly. We need your authentic voice. We need your unique vision. We need the woman you become when you finally shed the labels that never belonged to you in the first place. The world is waiting, and your true story is just beginning.